morning and welcome. Kya hal ba? You're watching NDTV coverage of the Bihar elections. This is counting day and this is what it boils down to. Joining me in the NDTV election studios, a crack team, all set and raring to go. I see Veera Raghav has his gamcha out.
Oh, absolutely, and I've given them an explanation linking Rajinikanth to the gamcha as well.
What's the Rajinikanth gamcha explanation?
So I was just telling them that there is a old Rajinikanth film in which he says, there's a dialogue where he says that the reason why Ambedkar wore the suit and the reason why Gandhi took off the suit was politics. One had to show that he was up with the upper caste, the other had to show that he was with the downtrodden. So
and Veera is showing he's getting ready, Padmaja, for the Tamil Nadu elections.
No, the only reason I'm relevant here in this Bihar election coverage is because of the gamcha. So let me just wear this.
No, not just that. Your shows also did fabulously well and were absolute rating blockbusters. So that too. Yeah. Padmaja was celebrating her birthday in the studio. That's just the best celebration, Padmaja. What can be better than that? To be amongst the people you love and work so hard with, celebrating your birthday. So happy belated
Rahul,
birthday.
absolutely. That's what I would expect to hear from you. Every single birthday, every single festival, we love to celebrate here in office. Not quite, but sure. Election, I think after this entire slogging that the entire team has done, you won't miss it for the world. This is like nothing short of Diwali.
Ankit's been traveling the length and breadth of Bihar. He's back in the studios now. What's more fun, Ankit? Being out in the field or being here in the studio?
Except the counting day, everything else is on the field. It's the best experience, a privilege actually to go to these places, cover, meet new people. It gives you the insight like nothing else, Rahul.
It's good to pick up insights from the ground and distill them for our viewers and bring them here live on NDTV. Jay Mrik joins us, one of the leading psephologists, number crunchers. He's been working the numbers. Is there anything that's keeping you anxious early this morning, Jay?
Well, two things. One is the actual number of votes polled in the election as compared to the previous election. On an average is about 29,082 more per assembly seat. So, third debate as I think should be closed. The absolute number of votes polled has gone
Let's
up.
spend a moment looking at the vote share numbers because this really is one of the most important things to be looking at through the day. This is the highest vote percentage that Bihar has seen in elections going back all the way to 1951, which is when the first elections were held in Bihar. Not since then has in any election Bihar polled in quite the same fashion. And even when you compare the second phase with the first phase, a massive jump in the voting percentages in the second phase versus the first phase. There it is, going back all the way till 1950. It was at the peak of the Mandal era where the voting percentages reached the early 60s. Since then, Bihar has never seen very exuberant voter turnout, and part of the reason is because it has a large migrant population. Therefore, there are lots of people who are on the rolls. Their names exist, but they're not physically there and therefore unable to vote. Because the rolls were cleaned out and also because of mobilization by the various political formations, this time Bihar has recorded the highest voter turnout in its history, 66.9%. If you compare hour on hour, it's not as if there's a late surge. Starting early in the morning, the three worms on your screen right now. The first of them at the bottom is the 2020 vote share numbers. Hour by hour, you see on your screen right now where the voting percentages ended. The worm in the middle, the orangish worm, is phase 1 and the green worm right on top is phase 2. If you look at phase 2, just look at the sharp spurt in voting percentages in the second phase. A level of voter mobilization and enthusiasm that this state hasn't seen. If there's any reason pollsters are anxious, it's because of these voting percentages. Look now at the percentage of women voting. This is the first election where as a sheer numeric, as a sheer number, more women have voted than men. Before 2005, more men used to vote as a percentage than women. Since then, women were voting. The gap this time, Ajija, is bigger than it's been in any poll. Just if the NDA has reason for confidence this morning, the fact that they think that there's Nari Shakti rooting for Nitish Kumar is a big part of it.
Absolutely. In fact, women turnout has been increasing for the last 5 elections since Nitish Kumar came. But this time it has, crossed the limits. It's one of the highest ever. And I think one reason, of course, is the sympathy factor with Nitish Kumar. I mean, most of the women voters that we spoke to, whenever I went to Bihar in the last 3 months, it's like one-sided across castes. across religion. In fact, many of the Muslim families we visited, the male was voting for Rajad and the female voting for Nitish Kumar. That is the most interesting thing. Now, people always say it's because of that 10,000 rupees that they have got right before the election. But I think, no, it's not that. I think it's the 24 programs, initiatives that Nitish Kumar has taken in the last 20 years, and prohibition
of what Nitish Kumar has done. Tehseen Pulawala, I was listening to Padmaja this morning and she was pointing this out, that the RJD and the opposition almost seems to be setting up to suggest that the election has been stolen. We don't know, forget the polls, we don't know what will happen just yet, but it almost seems as if they're building a crescendo which suggests vote chori.
Yeah, I think, and I've been in touch with the RJD's top family. I think they have to give that to their cadre, say that the election was stolen in 2020. They've worked very hard in 2025 and everything. ये सब conspiracy है हमारे खिलाफ. I think that has become the narrative. How else would you say that you've lost yet another election which you were...
But Padmaja, two things can happen. When you hear that votes are being stolen, and we saw this Ajit ji in Simanchal when we were seeing the campaigning, some people feel अगर चोरी हो रहा है तो फिर मेरे वोट देने का क्या फायदा? Is there any point in going to the polling booth? The other psyche is, okay, I better ensure that I go and vote so that the vote doesn't get stolen. It actually plays both ways, with some people getting demotivated to go out and vote as well, Padmaja.
No, it's a very commonsensical argument that most people give you, irrespective of community, by the way. There'll be many people whose simple comeback to this question would be, अगर वोट चोरी हुई है तो मेरे घर के सारे लोगों का वोट कैसे है? Now, if I am somebody who's traditionally a RJD supporter and voter, and 5 members of my family are on that voter list, the entire argument falls through. And if indeed my vote has been cut, then I am irrelevant in the election.
So take a look at this graphic on your screen right now. In every single seat, on the 243 seats of Bihar, on every single seat, voting percentages have gone up. In phase 1, overall voting stood at 65%. In phase 2, it stood at 69%. If I show you a vote intensity map, the deeper the color coding, the higher the percentage of vote. In some seats like Jamalpur, the voting percentage went up by 23%. Wow. In other seats like Patna Sahib, for example, it went up by 8.06%. There isn't a single seat here which is graded red. If you're in different shades of red, it suggests that voting percentages have gone down. It's all either light blue or dark blue, which basically means, and this again, ladies and gentlemen, is historic, there isn't a single seat across Bihar where voting percentages came down so much for people not trusting the electoral system. They're going out, they're seen voting in bigger numbers than in the past.
But if you see that Simachal area, it's much more greener than less. Now, what's happened in Simachal, and Ajija, you may bear me out here, I think a lot of the people who returned to Simachal were scared that if they don't vote, they will not remain citizens of India or get benefits, and therefore they came in larger numbers to vote there. And also what you suggested that...
So SIR may have, that's the point that Jay Mrig makes, SIR may have led to higher voter mobilization than in the past. They are worried, nahi katta to agli baar kat jayega, boss naam.
Absolutely. No, we're looking at 3 important statistics. One is, if you just keep SIR aside, the change in the absolute number of votes cast, is about 31,277 across the state per assembly constituency. There's another statistic we look at. If you adjust it for CERD, which is a reduction since 1st Jan 2025, it's about still 29,082 voters.
Correct.
Coming to Tehseen's point and the point that even Rahul was making, if you go to Simachal and just look at the absolute number of votes increase, there are constituencies where it is touching 45,000, 50,000. Yeah. The number of votes cast.
I want to go across to our Bihar Bureau Chief. Prabhakar joins us. He's traveled the length and the breadth of the country. As much as this is Nitish's show, Tejashwi's show, this is Prabhakar's show. Prabhakar, are you anxious? Are you nervous? What's it looking like out on the streets of Patna early this morning? Kya hal ba?
Yeah, morning Rahul. I'd rather not be anxious. I'd be waiting for the figures to drop. The anxious person is right behind that barrier.
check ये लगा रहा हूँ मैं उसको रेडी वाले को.
Very interestingly Rahul, just 20 meters from there you have Tejashwi Yadav's residence. So this entire fight in Bihar, Rahul, is to cross that 20-meter road, and Tejashwi Yadav would enter this particular official residence of Chief Minister Nitish Kumar. We heard Tejashwi Yadav yesterday actually trying to alert his cadres as to be alert on the polling day, on the counting day. So we are seeing his people on the ground. They're all very anxiously waiting for the numbers to trickle in now.
Joined by Vasudha Venugopal. I was pleasantly surprised and very, very impressed with Vasudha's understanding of the nuances of Bihar politics as she was traveling through Simanchal. Nicely done, Vasudha. You've been crisscrossing party offices, I hear, speaking to people out on the ground. What are you picking up? Who's looking most confident and who's looking most anxious this morning?
Well, that's the first thing that I did, Rahul, yesterday night after landing. I did go to all party offices, and there is a lot of confidence that the BJP has. Of course, the BJP also feels that it did pull the entire NDA together, because remember, the Prime Minister said कि बिहारियों के दो भाई हैं, Narendra Modi and Nitish Kumar. So that in some ways also set the ball rolling. Well, the JDU is expected to perform well. I also went to the RJD office. There seems to be a certain concern that the Congress might not really do well. The RJD is very confident of ensuring that its 30% vote share is not going anywhere. So clearly there's some anxiety when it comes to the 40 seats which Ankit was pointing out are slim margin seats, and that could actually turn the election on either side. We don't know that. I'm in the BJP office now. There is a certain amount of caution as well, because everybody remembers what happened in 2015. So all the BJP leaders told us yesterday ab 8 baje ke baad hi action hoga yahan pe. So we're all waiting for the BJP leaders, and of course we'll also go to the other party offices to understand what kind of celebrations are taking place. It's a mix of caution plus anxiety, because this is Bihar. It has the socialist ML traditions and also a lot of caste. So clearly a lot of caution is what I see in the air.
You know, you never want to celebrate too early. 2015, the BJP was bursting crackers. It turned out to be an extremely premature celebration. So you just want to wait till the election commission numbers start coming in deep, thick and fast, and then bring out the laddus or the tilkut ki mithai or whatever else it is that you hope to bring out. I want to show you what Tejashwi Yadav said. He is basically asking his workers to be extremely vigilant, putting pressure on the counting agents. Let's listen to the RJD leader as he sets up for counting day.
आप लोगों से हम कहना चाहते हैं, वक्त कानून का जो इन लोगों ने बनाया है, हमारी सरकार बनेगी तो उस बिल को हम लोग पूरे दान में फेंकने का काम करेंगे। कि बीजेपी के लोगों ने, भ्रष्ट अधिकारियों ने नीतीश जी को पुतला बना करके रखा है। आज हम सब लोग उनकी स्थिति को देख रहे हैं, किस रूप में भाजपा के लोगों ने केवल उनके चेहरे का जो है इस्तेमाल की जा रही है। नीतीश कुमार जी बिहार के मुख्यमंत्री नहीं होंगे, ये बात अमित शाह जी ने कहा है, और पहले भी हम लोग कहते रहे हैं कि नीतीश जी का इस्तेमाल जो है भाजपा के लोग कर रहे हैं। चुनाव के बाद वो कभी भी मुख्यमंत्री नीतीश जी को नहीं बनाएंगे। हमारी सरकार बनने पर अधिनियम बनाकर हर घर सरकारी नौकरी जो है वो दी जाएगी। यानी आप समझिए, हर व्यक्ति, बिहार का हर परिवार में लोग सरकारी नौकरी होगा, तो हमारे साथ साथ हर बिहार के लोग सरकार को चलाने का काम करेंगे। और खास तौर पे ऐसी सीटें जहां मार्जिन कम है, या जो सीटें महागठबंधन जीत रही है उसको डिक्लेयर मत करो, एनडीए की सीटों को जो है वो डिक्लेयर करो। और मीडिया के माध्यम से एक माहौल भी बनाया जाएगा कि भैया प्रधानमंत्री बीजेपी दफ्तर जाने वाले हैं। इस तरह की स्ट्रैटेजी जो है ये लोग अपनाएंगे, लेकिन हम लोगों के लोग जो है मुस्तैद हैं और जीत हम लोगों की निश्चित है। इस बार तमाम अधिकारियों से हम यही कहेंगे कि निष्पक्ष रूप से आप सब लोग जो है काउंटिंग कराएं। जो जनता ने मत दिया है उनके साथ जो है लोगों को न्याय करना चाहिए। हमारे कार्यकर्ता जो है लगातार मुस्तैदी के साथ काउंटिंग सेंटर पे मुस्तैद हैं, चौकन्ने हैं, और कहीं भी अगर प्रशासन के लोगों ने 2020 वाली गलती अगर वो करेंगे या कोई अपना लिमिट क्रॉस करेगा, गैर संवैधानिक काम करेगा, अन्याय करेगा, किसी के इशारे पे अगर कोई अधिकारी अगर काम करेंगे तो जनता एक पांव पे खड़ी है, करारा जवाब जो है जनता देगी।
किसी ना किसी तरीके से ये लोग संदेश देने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं कि लोगों में एक अराजकता का माहौल तैयार हो। हार इन लोगों के गले से उतरने नहीं वाली है और इसीलिए भले वो कांग्रेस के नेता हों, राहुल जी को ऑल ऑफ अ सडन जिस तरीके से जेंजी याद आ रहे हैं या बिहार के जिस तरीके से विपक्षी राजनीतिक दल हैं, ये बात तय है कि इन लोगों को अपनी हार ये लोग मन ही मन में मान चुके हैं।
हमारे आवाज को नहीं दाब सकता है, आप लोग अच्छी तरह से जानते हैं। कोई व्यक्ति चाहेगा कि हम थूक फेंक के हमको डरा दे, FIR भी होगा, फिर भी जो सच्चाई होगा हम लगातार रहेंगे।
तो आज से नहीं, इसमें चुनाव आयोग ने भी, हम चुनाव आयोग के खिलाफ भी हम लोग सड़क पर उतरने का काम किया था। हमारे नेता उन्होंने जो रोड शो भी करने का काम किया था। ऐसे परिस्थिति में हम लोग चुप बैठने वाले लोग नहीं हैं, हम लोग चुप बैठ कर काम करने वाले लोग नहीं हैं। हमारे साथ ना इंसाफी हुआ तो हम लोग अपने मुंह को बंद कर करके मुख दर्शक नहीं बनेंगे, ईंट से ईंट हम बजा देने का काम करेंगे।
Well, this does great disservice, Padmaja, to the manner in which this whole poll is conducted, because you want it to be a celebration of whoever wins and whoever loses, you know, it's all fine. But when you set it up in this way, you're telling your supporters that the election's been stolen even before you know what the verdict is.
No, and this is tacit incitement. Look, I mean, and these are just some of the statements. Mukesh Sahni, for example, he was asked a question that आपको लगता है वोट चोरी की कोशिश हो रही है. He said, देखिए, अगर मैं चाहता हूँ कि तो मेरे कार्यकर्ता किसी कार्यालय में आग लगा दे, वो आग नहीं लगा देंगे. So look, I mean, all these nuances, you know, you could argue that they are just telling their कार्यकर्ताs to be alert, but when you say ईंट से ईंट बजा देंगे, हम चाहते तो आग लगा देंगे, the tone and tenor is not lost on anyone, and no कार्यकर्ता is going to pick up on the nuances that this is.
You know what we've seen from the opposition, Veera, is a systematic attempt at some level to delegitimize India's electoral process, and that is very, very dangerous, because as Ajit Jha mentioned, and Pradeep Gupta mentioned the same thing, if there were lakhs of people whose votes had been stolen or their names had been stricken off, there's so much social media now, forget television, they'd be out on the streets protesting, saying mera naam kat gaya. That simply didn't happen.
No, I agree with you that the quantum of the allegations that's been made or the language that's used needs to be questioned, but one cannot discount the fact that there is a genuine sense within the opposition that the machinery is being unfair to them, right? So this is about preemptively trying to establish as well. I completely cannot condone the kind of language that's used, and as Padmaja says, incitement to violence, but then the point needs to be made, and I was talking to a Congress leader yesterday, Rahul. Vote chori is something that they want as a brand to stick on to the BJP. It's a political allegation at some level. So the quantum of it may be questioned, maybe.
No, but it sticks only if it is validated by empirical evidence from the ground. If people around them see that votes are being stolen, then it sticks. Otherwise, you're just flinging mud in the hope that it sticks. Because, for example, I'll tell you, one senior Congress leader in the Simhanchal region was telling us that they tried, because they were given instructions from the top, and Tehseen can build on this, to find people whose names had been stricken off. You know, multiple calls happened, senior lawyers were involved, they were instructed, they did these video calls, and their karyakartas on the ground really struggled. They did come up with a few names, but they struggled to come up with en masse names of people whose names had been stricken off. Tehseen, they simply couldn't find those names. Of course, they found the few dozen cases, but that could happen in any electoral roll. On one occasion, my name got stricken off for some reason or the other. But that's the reality. They couldn't find a mass striking off of names.
Yeah. So there are two ways at looking at it. Even the way the election commissioner responded to the leader of opposition, it seems to be that the umpire is playing on the opposite side. The way the tenor of the election commissioner has been, the way he's taken on the leader of opposition, I found that not very statesman-like himself. However, I do agree with the larger point you made, and also I think the Congress in particular is struggling with some data people who keep giving it the wrong data. They did it with Rafael, They're doing
He
it.
really doesn't like the data team of the Congress party.
And some of them are from
Rahul, I'll give you.
You know, the lots who come from. I just want to add one very quick point, Rahul. I think while you are right in saying that this questions the credibility of the election process and that's dangerous, it's also imperative on the commission and the system to come out with categorical clarity, machine
But they
readable
have,
slips across.
and I'll tell you how. Let's just give example of the last 24 hours. In the last 24 hours, there were at least 3 instances where, you know, these videos were circulated on social media. One happened in Rohtas, where, you know, there was just this video of an RJD guy saying, देखिए देखिए वोट चोरी हो रही है, ये ट्रक अंदर घुस गया है, 3 घंटे से अंदर इसके अंदर बक्से हैं, ईवीएम चेंज की जा रही है. The central forces came, they stopped the truck, they opened every single box in front of the polling agents of every party and a large number of supporters of RJD, and it's on video, it's documented. The DM came and she said all of those boxes were empty, there were no EVMs inside.
Ankit, where do you come out on this? Ankit.
But can I say,
why is the truck going in?
But can I say it happened because there were RJD people, they have been told by their party cadre to be very, very
No,
vigilant.
of course, be vigilant by all means.
Videos
And the whole
saying
sense
vote
is,
चोरी हो रही है. Where is the
they
evidence?
forced them to open those boxes, Padmaja. There have been three
Another instance happened where a polling official was going inside the strong room to check whether everything was sealed. That video was circulated saying suspicious man was going inside to tamper.
So what I'm trying to
paranoia.
Okay, what I'm trying to tell you is that at 3 places it could have been a genuine. When the feed of the CCTV went out, people feel in Bihar, Rahul, especially for the RJD, last time they lost 15 seats under the margin of 2,000. They thought that election has been stolen, and this time they have just been extra cautious. Even if the election commission or the DM is being forced to open and show it to them, what is the big deal? That's strengthening the.
Despite all this, what is not caught on CCTV, people will be made to feel that in places where it wasn't caught on CCTV, some rigging has happened.
But Padmaja, one second. But Padmaja, why aren't you answering the question in this particular video? Why was the truck inside in the first place? You are not allowed to be in there. What was it doing?
But Tehseen, go back to the days of Lalu Yadav, and before that, dozens of polling booths used to be captured. There was serious rigging at an epic level. In an electoral process, no, one second, here's the point. In an electoral process this big, to find the odd laps is perfectly possible. To suggest that there is systematic rigging is a completely different matter. In the late 80s, early 90s, before TN session, there were dozens of where they would stand with weapons and ensure yahan vote dalo, wahan vote dalo. They'd be stealing ballot boxes, Veera.
You made a very important point. Hang on. You made a very important point of mentioning TN session. It's not about justice being done, but the optics of justice being seen as done. The problem right now is one of optics. You know, you need to have that kind of categorical optics that the election commission is above everything else, and perhaps the opposition may be unfair in the quantum that is alleging.
You know, they say pehle pet puja fir kaam duja. In just a short while from now, election numbers will start coming in. So I just want to call in the NDTV chai stop thela. This is very important because during the day at different points, you know, we need to ensure that all the crew and staff that we have, they're all fully taken care of. So this is the NDTV chai stop. I saw yesterday when our team was doing the live coverage at the chai stop, Padmaja and Ankit, and Veera I think ate the most littis. You seem more interested in chomping off all the littis than you learned to make it as well.
By the way, Rahul, Veera can make littis as well.
I saw Padmaja roll some littis as well.
Both of them.
Who did a better job, Ankit? Veera or Padmaja?
Definitely Veera. Don't even ask anyone that question. I admit that, you know, I don't know how many of those doctors, you know, managed to kill people with ricin, but I certainly hope the littis I made wasn't eaten by anyone. That's a weapon of mass destruction.
Sir, क्या है breakfast का इंतजाम आज सुबह? दही चिवड़ा.
कुल्हड़ में देंगे आपको सत्तू शरबत.
How nice.
सत्तू शरबत, दही चिरवा.
It's a Bihari breakfast this morning.
Pure Bihari breakfast, dahi chirwa.
It's supposed to go. That's a part of it's just fantastic how energetic and how rich with protein this sattu sarbat is. Gets you going.
Baba Manoranjan Bharati
Are we supposed to go?
Right outside Hotel
That's what he's saying.
As well.
Of course.
So Baba took me on a walk and took me to this Sattu Sharbat place where the guy recognized Baba. The guy who was serving the sharbat was a RJD supporter, the guy drinking the sharbat was a Nitish Kumar supporter, and they got into an argument right there in the mall.
While having it's like a bit like the NDTV studios this morning.
In case you guys have missed, this is called Mithila painting or Madhubani painting.
Which one
made
is?
My sort of heart absolutely leap out. Beautiful painting of Ram and Sita right there. So
who gets the first? I think Ajit ji, in order of seniority, gets the first Sattu Sarbat this morning.
And our resident Bihari in the studio as well.
Yeah.
Ajit
all the way from
resident Bihari.
We are all with Gamchar,
He's not being domiciled. On live television, he's giving detailed instructions of how he wants his Sattu Sarbat. Aise mat dijiye, I want it a particular way. Okay, no, but the colors of Bihar and Veera, in your show in particular, I saw that you went there and you were as obsessed with the idli and the dosa in different places in Bihar as you were with the litti and the choka and the champaran. But Ashok Malik joins us. He's headed straight to the breakfast lounge.
Absolutely.
He's headed straight to the breakfast lounge. He says, all my panditry comes later. Food goes into the belly first. Ashok.
Pehle pet puja. Let's start with some puja.
The one thing about elections in Bihar, Ajit ji, is just the level of intensity of conversation. You know, for example, if somebody comes on a show in any other state, you know, they'll participate, they'll engage, and then they'll leave. Because of the cyclonic storm in Bihar, when we were doing the battleground Bihar, there were a few delays. Leaders got late coming in with their choppers. The kids who'd come and the others who were there stayed on till almost 10, passionately discussing politics, refusing to go anywhere, and just constantly non-stop talking about different aspects of the state's politics. It's just, this only happens in Bihar and nowhere else.
And it happens in the chai shops, it happens in the mandirs, it happens in the masjids. You just go there, you'll find mostly the guy who runs the mandir, the Panditji, is almost a cephalogist.
Panditji is a cephalogist?
Yeah, he'll tell you sociological background.
He's like a Jaji and he's also a cephalogist.
Not only a Jaji, he could be any Pandit, but he'll know the genealogical backgrounds of the entire community of the village because they maintain the records.
Yes.
So he'll tell you कि इसके दादाजी किसको वोट देते थे. ये भी उनको पता रहता है.
And
it's so
you have such things in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka as well.
Tamil Nadu is a highly politicized state, but you don't have the kind of conversation. I'll give you a simple example. At Maurya Hotel, when Baba and Ankit would sit for breakfast and I was sitting for breakfast, these guys were not there. There was a man standing there and he said, I want to ask you something. He came and asked me, कौन जीत रहा है? कौन जीत रहा है? I said, I don't know boss, मैं वहाँ से आया हूँ. आप नहीं देखे, नंगा नाच हुआ था उस time. So he was talking to this Jungle Raj allegations. So I was saying, oh okay, क्या हुआ था? And he was explaining to me. Within 2 minutes, there was another guy come there. Sir, उनका मत सुनिए, ये उधर का है, हमारे यहाँ आइए, RJD जीत रहे. I said, yeah, on the breakfast table.
On the Pandit thing, can I just add one? I was speaking to an RJD leader, Tejashwi Yadav, 4 days back during the campaign, has his 36th birthday. And he said तेजस्वी जी को उनके पंडित ने बताया है कि 36 साल बाद उनके पास अप्रत्याशित रिजल्ट्स आने वाले हैं. So Tejashwi is hoping that the Pandit ji is right, and this time when the results come out, there is an अप्रत्याशित result for Tejashwi.
I just want to point out,
post 36th birthday, he is going to get अप्रत्याशित
and
results.
Remember,
अप्रत्याशित just means unprecedented. It doesn't necessarily good. अच्छा ऊपर.
No, but Ashok Malik, this
प्रत्याशित.
Pratyashit is unprecedented.
And remember Tejashwi's rhetoric. He said, बीजेपी जो है वो 36 हेलीकॉप्टर मेरे चॉपर मेरे खिलाफ किया है. मैं अकेले राहुल को भी मेंशन,
एक अकेला सारे केंद्रीय मंत्री अकेले लड़के से लड़ रहे हैं.
उधर 36 चॉपर. He mentioned that the BJP has employed 36 choppers against him.
No, but there is an element of, how do I put it, lawlessness, or the RJD rallies are called Railas, especially the Raila, which Lalu used to do. So when we were in Purnia with Tejashwi on a rally, so he finishes his rally, it's a brief rally, he's got 16, 17 rallies to make. Everybody else speaks much longer than Tejashwi does. The crowds are energetic as they always are at an RJD rally. He finishes, he's taking off, and then suddenly the organizer who's set the Panda realizes that somebody's run away with the mic. Now you've got the chopper taking off and you've got the organizer saying, अरे आप में से जिसने भी mic ली है, mic लौटा दो, ये ठीक नहीं है, आप please mic लौटाओ. So there's a certain element of mischievousness, lawlessness, call it what you will, which comes with the package, and that is also what Ashok Malik, a lot of women, for example, are concerned about. If the voting percentages from the post-poll studies come out to be true, this is what concerns women, that there will be this element of mic loot ke le gaye.
Yeah, what's standing between anti-incumbency or not anti-incumbency but fatigue at some point playing its natural course and Nitish is actually the woman vote. And remember, those girls who went to school with Nitish's cycles in the early 2000s, they are either young mothers now or they have daughters of school-going age. So they don't want their daughters to suffer lawlessness either.
I think we should go back to our studios before our producers think that these guys are more interested in their breakfast than they are in all the plans that we made for how we hope to do election coverage.
Now, by the way, since you spoke about rally, did you notice that in RJD rallies, you'll see far fewer women in the crowd than you would possibly at Mr. Modi's or even Nitish Ji's rally. It is so apparent. You will see very young, very energetic men in RJD and you'll see them very vocal. Not so.
No, but given how much restlessness and energy there is, it's also not necessarily a very safe space for women to be in.
That's the reason why.
Also, it's the way they have been designed. For a Nitish Kumar or Prime Minister's rally, it's much more organized than any RJD rally that you would see. It's not that barricades are being made. Everybody standing right next to where Tejashwi.
I want to go across to
That's also HPG.